again. Wow. Here we are. Or there you are. Here I am. And we both are in that little sliver in between the screens, right? Isn't that something? The beautiful art of the technology that we're using to have this experience is actually giving us the truth of the secret of the key to the inner sanctum. What we're talking about here, which is just a quite beautiful thing, is that I'm speaking and you're listening. And yet both of us are residing at that moment in between these two screens. We're not on either side watching and listening. We're in between talking. So good evening. Thanks for everyone popping in today. Or anyone that's watching after the fact. It's been quite a ride this past couple weeks, kind of getting together and watching the channel evolve. You know, I popped this up a couple months ago to do some readings and put myself out there, and kind of, you know, I was in a little bit of a low point emotionally and thought, you know, this is a great way to, I don't know, commune, right? And it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy the art, and I thought that I had something to contribute, not only to the community, but also to individuals during my readings, right? So I decided to go ahead and do that. And, you know, it kind of took on a life of its own inside of me with respect to the purpose of the channel. And I still am going to do readings, and I'm still going to do all the fun stuff I started with. But there's this one kind of idea that I've been culminating pretty much my whole life, since I was a little kid. And I'm going to tell the story someday of my journey and where it began. And it began at about 6 years old. But that said, this idea has been a real concrete thing that was born about 20 years ago. And I've spoken to it a little bit with respect to this new deck that I've created. Cora, how's it going? And so I'm going to be doing readings in a little bit, actually probably about an hour, just to be honest. But if you happen to be back in about an hour, then we'll be doing readings then. And so a couple of streams back, maybe 4 or 5 streams back, it kind of got a little chopped up due to my internet going down. I began to reveal little pieces of this idea that popped into my head years ago with respect to the vortex and what that means, the divine order of the cards and how the tarot lines up, and the fact that there's a specific reason that they line up a specific way, and that the vortex alters that. I'm doing great, actually. I'm doing really good, and I don't know if you caught the last stream. I made a tarot deck. I finally, after almost 40 years of reading cards, you know, having some interest in art as a means of expression, and all these other things culminating, I decided finally it was time to do it. So I made a tarot deck, and I'm going to be, this is the prototype. It's just a little paper cardboard prototype that I revealed a couple of streams ago, and it's part of a very specific idea. Once this realization came to me 20 years ago, it was very strange. It was equivalent to someone who's a musician out there who writes music. We've all been at that place where some songs that we write came to us all at once, just a finished, and all we did was play it and get it out. That's called channeling. Okay. Incidentally, that's the definition of channeling. What happened inadvertently, or not inadvertently, when you're in that creative state, is you put yourself in a state of reception to your higher self. And what happens is that higher self has the capacity to communicate. Normally, it's trying and is stopped from doing that. But sometimes, especially for artists and people in a certain craft that they have a both emotional and mental connection to at the same time. That's the important part, that you are emotionally and mentally connected to the work at the same time. It just flows. It's the zone. It's that place, that the pocket There's a lot of words for it. And as an individual in the lower realm, right, in our physical 3D meatbag world, we're able to activate that if we have the idea of how to communicate, right? And so it's not always easy to find that place. And so what I decided to do, because I found it, what I've decided to do is to present the answer, although that's not the word, present the truth of the technique of how to crack open this level of communication. And here's the thing, I'm not revealing anything new. I just want to be clear that I've mentioned before, on the shoulders of giants. I did the reading so you don't have to. Okay, I'm not implying that this is something that's brand new. However, I do feel that I have some contributions that are valuable to the conversation. And so, that said, those contributions are this deck and the doctrine, so to speak, that goes with it, right? This sort of like these series of individual kind of facts that are designed to awaken a certain understanding. And when you have that understanding, you have a perspective on yourself that you didn't have, right? And so, and you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this subject, and so I feel like it's important to speak to each one of those ways. Another way of putting that is there's many thinkers, right? There's the, do you hear me? I feel you. I see what you mean. Right? And you have to speak to each of those people. And so each one of these is the same truth spoken in a different way. And at the end, I guarantee a high percentage of people that watch this video with an open mind and heart. That's the important thing. You have to have both open at the same time. Will enter the inner sanctum. And what is the inner sanctum? The inner sanctum is a place where you can speak to consciously yourself. Not some mystical experience, not some psychedelic experience, not some fantastic thing that you're kind of making up. It's a real experiential thing, and when it occurs, there's no going back. And so I have this ability. Anyone who knows me will kind of agree with this, to communicate. It's kind of like my gift. God gave everyone their gift, right? And my gift is gab, right? And so, you know, if I put my intent on a subject, it's easy for me to find the words to install that idea in someone else's mind, for them to understand it and it become usable to them. And so this experience is so profound that I felt it should be the target of my gift. And so what I've decided to do is to utilize the tools that are available to us. A piece of cardboard and a pen, which is the pentacle and the sword. The wand is the will, and the sword is the implement. It's kind of like a wand and a sword at the same time, and then we have the created object. But that said, to elicit this experience in people, these tools, this system that is now a complete system, is designed to elicit the response, elicit the state of knowing. That's what it's for. Now, can you use it to read the future or the past, or to get insight like you would with tarot? Actually, yes. In fact, this little pack of cards, and the last stream went over it in depth, and I won't today, is the entire tarot. It's the entire Bible. It's the entire Kabbalah in one little pack of cardboard. All right, and that's perhaps a bold statement, but it's truthful when you look at it. And it's a very clear depiction of our reality from the respect of our creation, our destruction, and the time in between. I've said many times on this show, over and over and over and over, that we were born at the beginning of time. You. And this is the truth told openly. We were born at the beginning of time, and we exist at the end of time, looking back, waiting for ourselves to catch up with ourselves. And yet, we also have the ability to participate in the middle. We're actually changing the story. So, even though the end is done, and even though we know the beginning and the end because we lived it, we can change the story in the middle. And that's just a beautiful realization when you allow yourself to receive that. And then what the tarot allows us to do, and other experiences, the interrogation of our universe with the intent of receiving back the truth, not answers. Answers are not always true, right? You ask someone a question, they give you an answer. Is it true? Maybe. There's a probability distribution. It's not always 100%. The truth is 100% true. The truth is 100%, right? So we don't want answers, we want the truth. And we interrogate, we ask our universe, and then we put ourselves in a state of listening for the answer. That doesn't work. Instead, we have to put ourselves in a state of looking for the truth, of seeking truth instead. So that said, this can be used for readings, of course, because it gives you access to the higher world where the beginning and the end are done, the story's told, and what we're doing is finding a point and reflecting it into our world and then viewing it, the shadow of it. We can't view it, we can view the shadow. That's all we're looking at. You're looking at the shadow. So, and that gives us an insight, because once we know the shadow, we can apply the algorithm. And by applying the algorithm to the shadow, we can see what it looks like there. And that's the truth told openly. That's not the truth, the lies told openly. That's not the truth in secret. This is the inner sanctum truth. And I'm going to bring you through that experience tonight if you want it. If you don't, now's the time to go. And, it's going to get seriously heavy, but not in a technical way. But it's going to get heavy in an emotional and a mental way. And my goal in this evening is to set forth on a permanent record this technique. My goal is to provide training to individuals who will also train other people, and also to provide training on a one-on-one basis to wake people up to this who are maybe close to getting it. There is no prerequisite for this experience. You don't have to have a certain type of knowledge or learning or understanding or education. This is accessible to children. A child could know this. In fact, it's easier sometimes to wake them up to it. But that said, this whole thing culminated from looking back at the wheel, and we'll get there, and people who come to the channel know exactly what I'm talking about. I use it for readings, and I use it for sort of horoscopes and looking at basically just time. I interrogate my universe through the lens of time, right? And the way I do that is using some techniques related to the decadent, and that led to kind of what I'm talking about tonight, right? And so the first talk tonight is your story in numbers, your story. Not the, watching something on TV, your story in numbers. No, I'm talking about you, the person watching. Listening if you're not looking at the screen. This is your story we're talking about. And what we're talking about with your story is your story in numbers. The idea here is there's a number of ways you can define something. What is this? I've done this before with many people, and you're going to answer the question 5 different ways, right? But if I tell you the language, I guess is the best word, for how to interrogate, how to ask the question, it changes everything, because now there's a context. Like the positional meanings of a tarot reading. When you're doing a tarot reading, you lay the cards out in a certain manner, and the manner that you lay them out determines the context of the meaning, right? And so if I put the card in the one position, I know that that's talking about the situation we're looking into. But if that card appears in the 4 position, it's referring to things that I actually have, as opposed to the 3 of the things I don't have. So that's the language. The language of that spot tells me the context. And so if I do this and say, what is this in numbers? Suddenly you know right away that it's a 2. And there's no question anymore. Or if I ask you, what is it in animals? You might say a bunny. Or if I ask you in the letters of the alphabet, you may say V, right? It looks like a V. Or symbols, peace, victory. But if I give you the language system, suddenly it's not anything else. It is that thing, and suddenly something has been manifest. The idea has been made concrete. Prior to that, it was actually kind of abstract. But once it has context, it becomes real. And what gives context? Language. And so you can look at the same object through different lenses, different languages, and that changes the context. Therefore, changes your understanding of it and what it is, and you compared to it. And so what I'm talking about is interrogating yourself through the lens of God. That's what we're doing. And what you're going to recognize is the truth. So one way that we can interrogate our universe, ourselves, is with numbers. And so I've done a lot of things on the channel related to tarot, and I thought it would be fun for us to do something related to numerology. Numerology is just it's a fun topic, and I wanted to start with it because this is the kind of thing that you can use in your own life very easily and quickly. It doesn't require cards or anything else. I mean, literally just counting things can make a difference. But what we're going to get into tonight is the next level of that, what I call the inner order. You see, anyone is welcome to the outer order. You can walk into any church, you can walk into any public school, you can walk into any government building and get the pamphlet, and you'll know what they want you to know. And what I call that is lies told openly. But you can, through a discerning eye, sort of peer through all that and find the truth if you're willing to do the work. So lies are still useful from a certain degree. But then there's the inner order. And the inner order is the truth told in secret. And so what this means is the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. The rabbihood. So you're not the person that comes to the temple. You're the one that's up preaching, right? You're pastor. There's an inner order that is invite only. You're not allowed in unless they let you in. You can want to be a pastor, but you got to go through the schooling, and there's a council, and if they think that there's some reason that they don't want to allow that, then guess what? You're not going to be a pastor or a rabbi or whatever the case may be. One of the reasons, frankly, that you see all these pop-up churches is that there's somebody with a desire in their soul to communicate truth that is not given the opportunity through the inner order, and so they create their own. And good for them. If the message is true, go for it. And frankly, if you're in the proper mode of seeking, you can find the truth in a blank wall. So that's the idea. I'm just going to make some room. I have some, a little setup here to kind of, this is for the people that want to see what's going on here. This idea is the story that we're telling. This is the answer to the secret. This is the key to the sanctum. And I'm going to show you the same thing in a totally different picture. And then ultimately, this is the key as well. This is not the key, but this gives you the instructions on how to craft it. And so I'm just going to kind of straighten up here a little bit while we're chatting. And I just first, before we move forward, just want to see who's in the room here. Cora again, hey, how's it going? Sharmila, what's going on? It's good to see you. I appreciate you joining me this evening. And we're going to be going through a bunch of different stuff tonight that's fun. The Tarot Talk is one that I think everyone's going to love because, again, it's kind of just sort of like fun, practical stuff that you can do really quick to have some additional insight into a subject, into yourself. It's also really good, as a conversation starter kind of thing. Like if you and a buddy or whatever hanging out and you're done Netflixing or whatever and you're just like bored, go get the love interest's name and do the numerology, and then do yours and see how the numbers work out. You can do that kind of thing. It's kind of fun. It's, why did God give us toys if not to play with them? Right? And so we should play with our toys. That's what they're for. And so when you're approaching wisdom, always try to approach it first from humor. It sets the tone in your heart of being conducive to communication. It makes yourself and the thing you're approaching friendly. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. And so, as we move through the evening here, again, the goal is to just kind of have a conversation with the intent of opening up certain truths inside of you. And one of the first truths that I want to talk about is the idea of the upper and the lower world. The idea of the upper and the lower world is not a new idea. This is something that has been talked about for a very, very long time. Everyone has their own little concept of that, right? I mean, there's the idea of the, even just like space and the earth, there's the idea of heaven and hell, right? There's the idea, and then they have their sort of purgatory if you're on the Catholic side, and then you have sort of the Kabbalistic idea, right? Which is primarily where I derive a majority of what I'm discussing here, is kind of within that line of doctrine. The tarot is another example. Because you can look at it from the respect of the numbers, you can look at it from the respect of the elements, you can look at it from the respect of the seasons and the time. It has all these individual symbol systems kind of tied to it that allow you to approach it from different parts of the brain, at different parts of your experience. You can look at it, you can hear it, you can smell it, you can taste it, right? You can touch it, you can, all these things, and they're all different. I actually took notes. I never take notes, and last stream I took notes, and I thought it was a good idea, so I took notes this time. Because it was usually just, here's what I want to talk about, and I would just stream of consciousness, which I enjoy, and I think that's the right way to do it, because that's what allows for the opportunity for channeling to occur. And so, I think that was all I wanted to, yep, no, I didn't miss anything, okay. Okay. I did have one little note in here that I have no reference to, that I forgot what I wanted to notate myself for. And what I wrote down was 111 in binary. His Royal Duliness, what's going on? And we're going to be doing, because we're doing Gematria tonight. Gematria is basically Hebrew numerology. Since we're doing Gematria tonight, what I thought would be really fun would be to get names and other stuff, and just kind of at first, and then we'll get into the actual kind of meat and bones of how to use this science. But I have a note to myself, 111 in binary, so we're going to look at that, because the calculator that I'm using, it's the Windows calculator, whatever the case, but it does have a programmer mode that is kind of handy for doing the math in binary. Or the answer in binary, rather. So we can put in a decimal number, just, I don't know, some random number, right? That's a pretty random number, isn't it? And then look at it in binary if we wanted, right? Or we can, we can do a number like, say, for instance, 10, and look at it in binary. Interesting, okay, and there's that kind of idea. So for some reason, I told myself, look at 111 in binary. Wow, that's pretty. Actually, that is pretty. Okay. Let me see. What do you guys think of that? I guess that's 111 in binary. Graphing calculator, maybe. Yeah. There's gonna be a bin number. The bin button is binary, and then if you'll notice, like for instance here on the bottom of the calculator, if I go back to the normal mode, you'll notice that there's 9 digits and the 0, right? All that like normal. But if you go into binary mode here, all the numbers shut off except 0 and 1, because those are the only digits in binary, right? Like this would be 1, or if you wanted to do 2, it would be this. Well, no, that's not correct. There you go. This would be 2. If you wanted to do 3, if you wanted to do 4, so on. And so, you know, it's, or 5 rather. How this works is 1, 2, 4, 8. And so it just doubles as we go. And so to make the number 5 would be 1, 2, 4 plus 1. So that makes the decimal 5. If we wanted to do 10, we would do 8 and 2. Right? And so I guess for some reason, I just told myself to do 111 in binary. So, but it is pretty. Just looking at that, that's an interesting idea, because essentially what you see is the 2 outside ones swap to zeros. Huh. I wonder if that means something. Spoiler, it means everything. So the idea here is that a couple of the numbers stayed and a couple of the numbers changed, right? Like if we consider what we're looking at here, we have this group of numbers on the right side and the group of numbers on the left side. The group of numbers on the right side are 1, 1, 1, 1. The group of numbers on the left side are 0, 1, 1, 0. Now, that's not true, Michael, right? Because this is just a string of numbers. That space in between the first 4 and the last 4 is arbitrary. Uncle Noob, what's happening? I'm glad you made it. I'm doing numerology. You're going to love this one. So, the first batch of numbers and the second batch of numbers is not actually 2 batches. That space in between is imaginary, right? So I can't say that this is true. This is not a true pattern of the 4 ones and then the 0, 1, 1, 0 appearing like the 2 ones on the outside turned to zeros. That's not true, right? This space right here is an imaginary space. Or is it? Because there's 8 digits here. And 8 is a very holy number, if we remember. If we take the 4 as the first point that 3D exists, it's the tetrahedron. You know, the simplest 3-dimensional object possible. And then you have which is 4 points, and combining that with itself. And by combining it with itself, we're able to have the basically the blueprint, the matrix by which the physical reality comes into existence. And so it's called the Merkaba. I've showed it before on the stream. But basically what this is 2 counter-rotating tetrahedra, which has 8 points. The 4 points of the ascending and the 4 points of the descending. Okay, and that's you have the 4 ones and then the 0, 1, 1, 0 with the 2 outsides turning to zeros. One is positive, one is negative, one is feminine, one is masculine, one is giving, one's receiving, so on, right? It's this idea, this ebb and flow, this constant rhythm, this going up and going down at the same time. Okay. And so what we're referring to here, when we really consider it, is everything that we're always talking about in this channel. It's the idea of the conversation. And so there's a lot of ways that you can approach numerology. Like for instance, you can do names. Names are really kind of a fun thing to do. I'm going to reset the calculator here to be back into normal decimal mode. And so it's just going to be the normal 10 digits. Yes, is it? Yeah, is it? And although I play 5-color when I'm doing EDH, but I'm primarily an Is It mage. So, how about you? So what you can essentially do is, for instance, you can take a name and derive some understanding about the name. And I brought a friend with me. Aleister Crowley is going to be with us tonight, and he wrote 777, which is this amazing book, which is sort of like, hey, listen, who has time to memorize and do all this whatnot? So here's all the charts. And so he took all the charts from like the Sefer Yetzirah type knowledge and a lot of the Kabbalistic stuff, and borrowed a lot from the Rosicrucians, who we have so much to thank the Rosicrucians for. But anyway, I mean, really so much to thank them for. But he gave us all the tables and all the correspondences, so we don't have to do the math. He even gave us the correspondences of the first 100 primes in the Sefer Sephiroth, which is great. I think it's book 500. But anyway, or 555. Either way, 777 is an amazing book that we're going to be using tonight for the purposes of doing the Gematria. So you don't need the book, but it's good to have. It's kind of like a dictionary. Dude, cats, awesome. Cats are a thing, man. Are you green-white or are you mono-white? So here's the deal. You choose a word that you want to interrogate. So let's look at, for instance, for the example here, my name, and then we'll go into the chat and see who wants to do what names and so forth. So I'm going to jump to the large calculator here, so you can see all of the ways that we can look at the letters with respect to the tarot and all these other things. Let me go grab a deck. I think I'm going to get the Milo DuQuette. Not a bad deck for the type of work we're doing tonight. That's a good deck. I like this deck. This is a good one. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this. It's I've actually spotlighted it here multiple times, and I'm going to move off of it here shortly and move to a totally different energy of decks. But I felt like, I introduced the deck. Maybe it's time for me to just get to the point of the work live and just pop everyone's brain open live. And so why not? And so this is the last stream in this. I thought yesterday's was going to be the last, but this is. And I'm going to move off of Tarot Ceremonial Magic, although there is a link in the description. I don't earn a commission. It goes directly to the manufacturer distributor, who's Magical Omaha, and then Milo DuQuette and Constance DuQuette, right? So the DuQuettes make the money and the store makes the money. Now, I have nothing to do with it. It's a great deck. I highly recommend it. Links in the description. I will not be showing this deck tomorrow. So that said, say we wanted to do the name Michael, right? And so the way that we would do that, if you look at the chart that's immediately to the top of the numbers, we would start with the letters for Michael, which would be Mem, right? You can see it there in the middle, which is 40. And then we're going to go Yud. Yud is the letter I in Hebrew. It's the top in the middle there, so that's 10. Then we're going to do Kof. That's in the top right corner, right? That's the K. Then we're going to do Aleph. That's the first letter, kind of like an A. And then the Lamed, which is the L sound in the middle there, the third one down. And that is 30. And so we can see that the name Michael means 181. Now what we would do, at least from that spelling, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 777 and we're going to look up the number 181. And let me move the camera down. Or just shut it off. You know what? Let me just shut it off. And we're going to look up the number 181. Okay, sorry about that. Alrighty. So, really, really great book. He did all the work for us with respect to gathering all this information and putting it in here. And there's all these great tables. Let me find the correct spot here. There we go. Notes to table of correspondences, Sefer Sephiroth. Just to be clear, let me show you guys the title page, because this book contains multiple books. These are the and other. This isn't 777 I'm reading right now. I'm reading the and other. And it's called Sefer Sephiroth. Where's the title page for you guys? Where is it? Cannot find the title page. Sorry about that. Because it is also a book available on its own if you don't want the full 777, which you may just want a shortcut with just the stuff you need. Or you want to have them separate. Up to you. Oh, it went. Okay. And if you want to look it up there as well. Now, incidentally, anyone who's interested, let me grab this link for you guys. Anyone who's interested in learning about Thelema or anything related to Aleister Crowley or anything that has ever been written by the human race related to spirituality or religion is at that link. It's a great website. I've spent more hours on that website than I can... I mean, really. Yeah. Right, okay. So, yeah, let's go ahead and check the chat real quick. Missy, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. Shinam, what's up? Okay, learned some good constellation info tonight about Andromeda, which lead to Pegasus. Okay. Oh, you know, that's a beautiful kind of way to view the wheel, right? Of the way the constellations move in time is the way these stories that were enacted, and there's a lot of power in studying mythology from that respect, because right? That's the best bookmark you ever in your life. There's power in reenactment of these events, and when you study the mythology, it gives you insight into context, which I talked about. What does mythology provide? Context. And so what context does is become a device for your thoughts to latch on, to form real, right? To create real, to make real. To move into the earth phase, right? To drop to the lowest, to descend to the 10. And so, you know, the way to do that is well, there's many ways, but studying mythology and what she's talking about that way is the idea of the reenactment with the purpose of eliciting the response. So what you get to do if you're reading the information, it's fun and it's cool. But if you read the information with the intent of trying to say, okay, wait a minute, what is it I'm looking at? It says so much more. Let me give you one example. This is a great example. I made a discovery years ago, and I had to wait until the internet to find out if it was right. It was actually kind of around the time this all happened. It was actually, it did coincide. It was the same time, about 20 years ago. Have you guys ever seen the statue of, let me get this picture up. There's this, you guys need to see this picture. Hang on. I'm going to get it up here quickly. You know what I can do? Yeah, okay, give me a sec. I wanted to be able to put up Google Translate. So let me get that window up real quick. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Google Translate is working. So now if I do it in this window, it might work. Let's find out. Okay. This is why it's important to study mythology. Okay, give me just a moment to get this window the correct size. This will all make sense in a moment. Okay. All right, does everybody see this image? What are we looking at? It's a beautiful story talking about mythology. That is Mithras slaying the bull, right? Everyone pay attention to what we're looking at. Like, really take a look at what we're talking about here, okay? Sorry about that. Okay. But you get the gist? Consider what we're looking at. It's a pretty picture. Right? You have this individual, they're doing their thing. He's got his dog with him. Careful, there's a snake coming out of that rock down there. Actually, if you pay attention to, which I didn't notice till maybe the second or third time I looked at the picture, way back. There's a scorpion biting the testicles of the bull. You see him down there? Right, so what we have is Mithras slaying the bull. The dog is licking the blood from the wound. We have a snake emerging from the ground to come up toward the wound. And then we have a scorpion biting the testicles of the bull. Okay? Now, what does everybody think we're looking at right here? Because this dawned on me around the same time, and this is the thing that made it clear to me the importance of studying mythology with respect to the truth. What we're looking at is the pictorial representation of the end of the age of Taurus. This is Mithras, who is the god of time, slaying the bull, which denotes the end of the age of Taurus, giving birth to the Piscean era, i.e. the fish of Jesus. We have the dog, which is the star Sirius, the Canis Major. We have the snake, which I believe to be Ophiuchus. And then you have the scorpion of Scorpio. Does everyone see that there? End of the age of Taurus, that's right. If you look at the Tauran era with respect to the precession of the equinoxes, the end of the age of Taurus refers to the period of time prior to the Pisces. Now, the wheel here is a little different. This is not really a wheel designed for that purpose, right? This is different. This is like a decadent wheel. And so, it's a slightly different circumstance. But consider how the ages move through time. And when we consider how the ages move through time, it suddenly is like, okay, wait a minute. That statue is referring to the end of the period where we move out of Taurus. Was it Leo? Did we move into Leo? It might have been Leo, which is the period where they built the Sphinx pointing east. Because Leo rose at the sun after the age of Taurus, right? So let's look at the wheel. It might have been Leo, or did it go... No, it might have been... Okay, well, I guess it moved into Gemini. But there's a point where I'll talk about what the precession means. It's a little bit out of the scope, although the mathematics is kind of beautiful, so I might discuss it tonight. But you get the idea here, okay? And so let's go back to translate. Okay, very good. So All right, perfect. Good. I wanted to make sure I had that ready. So the idea here is there are many ways to approach now there's a couple of ways that you can, there's a couple of names that you can give this, right? One of the names that I've heard it called a lot is sacred geometry, which, okay, it works, but there's some connotation to that. And so rather, I think it's better to do, it's just a vocabulary. Yes, is it sacred? Sure it is, but it's no less or more sacred than the tarot, than the Bible, than that bug that you squashed yesterday. Sacred is a word. It's a state of being. We see something and our emotional response is holy. So it's denoting the observation of truth. You have to be careful not to mistake that feeling for awe, which can come from other places. Like you don't want to get sucked into the devil card, right? Which is this idea of the getting stuck in the illusion and not recognizing that you're not in control. And when you do, then you can take control back. So as far as the mathematics, though, is concerned, there's a lot of ways that we can use these tools to have this come to us, this experience that I keep talking about, which we're going to get to tonight. We are going to have this experience tonight. And I had the idea, I've told you guys many times about the 1 and the 2, which leads to the 3, which leads to the 4. The 4 can be referred to a couple of ways, but this is the 2-dimensional 4. The 3-dimensional 4 is the tetrahedron, which I showed you guys counter-rotating against the other one, right? And which makes this beautiful shape that is this kind of diagram of existence happening. This is what the conversation looks like. When you speak to your higher self, this is what it looks like. If you had a microscope, like if you were able to view with a microscope, a telescope, both at the same time, you would be able to see this taking place. Right. But mathematically now, there's some ideas with respect to like writing a name, like the name of God is the Yud, and then the Hey, right? And then the Vav, and then the Hey, right? And we see this all over the place. And like, why is that significant? Well, let's find out. There must be a reason that this number's so holy. And this gives us the, we're going to use this for that purpose. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to pop up our stuff here. And we're going to want to do some math. Okay. So, by the way, too, I'm going to do names next. So if anyone has a name or a word or any curiosity that they're interested in while we're doing this, just pop it in the chat. Just put like numerology and then the word that you want to look up or something, so I know. Wow, that's an interesting point, Missy. Yeah. Well, the cycle is that's the thing we always talk about, where it's like unchangeable, right? But let's do the math here on the name, and this Yud Hey Vav Hey, whatever this means, right? And so we look here at the Yud. Yud means 10. And why? Why does the Yud mean 10? Did someone just pick that? Basically, Hebrew and Greek both use their same alphabet for letters and numbers. They did not have separate characters for their letters and numbers, right? And so A meant 1, B meant 2, in this case Aleph, Bet, so on. These were the letters. If you notice too, the word alphabet comes from Aleph, Bet. And it might be older than that, it might be Sanskrit, but it comes from the first 2 letters of the alphabet, are the name of the alphabet, which is just neat. But anyway, Aleph is 1 and so forth. So Yud means 10. Okay? And then we do the Hey, and which you'll see it's 5th one down on the left, right? So that means 5. and then Val, which is the next one down, right? And then another Hey. Okay? And that gives us 26. Okay, so 26. All right, so what does that mean? Well, let's look at that. One of the important things about numerology, let me pop this back over, is there's a few different techniques that are important. So now we have this number 26. And what we're doing right now is called Gematria. Okay? I can't mouse, pardon me. I can't write with my mouse. I'm not even going to try it, but I apologize. However, there's another method that you can use as well. So Yud Hey Vav Hey equals 26. What we could do now is to theosophically reduce, which means that you would essentially add these two numbers. Right? And that gives you 8. Now, didn't we talk about how holy 8 is? That is the triangle that evolved into 3D, achieving conversation with itself. And so it becomes that beautiful shape that we all see with the counter-rotating energies that gives us that feel that it's a very, very profound energy, right? And so this is really what we're speaking about. This is what 8 means in numerology. When you see the number 8, the 8th card of any suit, this is what it's referring to, is the idea of the conversation. Okay? You know, you've been taught, and rightfully so, because there is a truth in it. There's kind of a beauty in the fact that 8 means infinity, but it doesn't. 8 means communication with your higher self. And so anytime you see the suit in an 8, that's what it means. So, excuse me. I just have to take a sip of coffee. I have something caught. You know, obviously then we have to consider that there's some truth in this idea of reducing numbers down to their kind of purest form, right? And so now, first thing we're going to want to do here is now we've gained some knowledge, right? We just gained some knowledge that the name of God, at least one of them, there are several, and I'm going to get to the next one, it means 26. But it also means 8. And so let's look at the 26 first. Okay. 26. The number of the Sephirot in the middle pillar. We're going to talk about the pillar one day. Oh, yes. Seeing. Seeing. Looking at. Okay. There is a Hebrew word for seeing that has the same value as the name of God. The name of God is seeing. Okay, I just want to be clear. The name of God is seeing. Okay, and now we've also done the math and saw that 26 reduced equals 8. Right? So I mean, it begs the question. Gee, I wonder what 8 means. Well, you know, thankfully Crowley did the work for us because, you know, have fun, and I did it. I went through this exercise. Have fun trying to find a Hebrew dictionary. There are a couple of good ones. But you know, like if you want to actually approach Zohar, if you want to actually approach Sefer Yetzirah, the way to do that is in the original Hebrew, because things get lost. And first of all, go find it. And then second of all, read the stuff if you're not fluent in Hebrew. So, so what Crowley did, come on. So 8. To intend, to will. So God means to see and to will. Right? Yes, infinity. And infinity is to see and to will. But it also, don't forget what 8 means. 8 means the combination of the four of God and the four of us combined in a counter-rotating force of descension and ascension simultaneously. Okay? Does everyone see that? That is what 8 means. That's what infinity means. And what does it also mean? To will. The wand. The wand is the will. All right? Yes. Coming together. Yep. So that said, well, and more important than that too, it implies this idea of a constant motion. It's not just coming together, because that implies an end. Like, you know, the goal was to achieve coming together, and now you have, so now you're together. No. This is like a constant flow. It implies the idea of, and this is the important thing, the conversation occurs and then stops, right? And so it's this. What this is referring to is that ebb and flow. If you notice, the symbol is apart and then they're together in the middle, and then they're apart and they're together in the middle. All right. The idea here is that we're only together when we're in the middle. Okay. So that idea is the important idea here of the 8 and of the Merkaba, which is 8. And the fact that the name of God is 8 when you reduce the 27, or the 26 rather. 26 reduced is 8. And so, do you see the beauty and the power of Gematria and what we're talking about here? Not 777, it's Sefer Sephiroth. What we're talking about as far as finding the other Hebrew words that contain... Now, there's a lot of... I just want to be clear right away, because there's a good percentage of the people who watch this video are going to go out and they're going to go online and they're going to look up Gematria calendars. They all are terrible. One of the things is you can't trust the method that they chose of their transliteration. That's why I don't use transliteration. I use this chart, and we just, like, if I'm looking up the word Jehovah, Yud He Vav He, like, so, and so I'm not relying on the computer, no, the programmer who, you know, and their tables, or the individual who gave the programmer the table of what meant what. I don't. I've done the work, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life with respect to, you know, transliteration of Greek and Hebrew into English characters, and so I don't use them. And I would love to have like a real Gematria calculator that simply uses the Hebrew characters, that is accessible, that's not expensive or requires subscriptions or whatever the case may be. But that said, be careful if you go out there looking Gematria for on websites that have calculators, because you have to be really careful if they're not using the Hebrew letters, how they apply the transliteration. Like, what's their F? Where's the F? If you don't have a knowledge of the language, you may kind of, I don't know, I guess, and it's pay, but who knows that? Which is actually pronounced almost like a fe. It's like a P and an F at the same time, so it's kind of the F. So you get the idea. Like, what about the word agape? Does everybody know good apps? I don't know. Actually, to be honest, I haven't looked for apps related to numerology. I do the work on pen and paper. I do. And I have a calculator next to me. That's the way to do it. But that said, though, the word agape means love, right? And so we looked already at the word love from the respect of or rather the name God. And so now let's look at the name love, right? The word love. And so agape, you may be familiar with the term. It actually had originally an older meaning that got changed, like or an older word. It's kind of like a name. It's one of the names of God that is kind of hidden with the word love. I think it's on here. Yeah, on the top you'll note, I love this coin because it's a great shortcut. I could have used this 20 years ago. Are you kidding me? This thing would have been really handy. We have the Yud Hey Vav Hey on the top. Okay, but right underneath that we have another word. And then underneath that there's another word, right? And then underneath that there's another word. What these are, all four of these are different names of God that are speakable but unspeakable. This is the full name, which we'll talk about on a different stream. It's actually in the Bible with the right translation. It's actually written in there. But anyway, that said, so and each one of these words has a different numerical value, and then the whole table has a different value, and then the different lines have different values, right? Obviously, like if you considered each one of these as a number, it changes everything, right? That's something that's like Sudoku to unlock your soul. You know what I mean? So that said, there's another method of interrogating with respect to this. So we looked at like a name or a word, but now what about letters? Or what about spelling words out? There's two other techniques that I want to talk about here, and then we'll move on. The first one, because there's so much you can talk about in numerology that really it's there has to be a point where you sort of cut off and then say we'll get to the other subjects of numerology at another point. Let's take the letter A for an example, right? If you look at the Hebrew for Aleph, it equals the number 1, and then there's a symbol, which is basically how you write the letter Aleph, right? And so it's kind of like this idea of a stroke, and counting the strokes. Let me jump back there. Counting the strokes is important. How many strokes do you see here? Is it 1, 2, or 3? Is it 2 or 3, right? It kind of looks like 3, but it kind of looks like 2. Like, I'm not 100% sure if it's like 2, 3, or 2. And that makes a difference. Or is it, because I'm looking at, is that long stroke down, the backslash. Right? So let's do a backslash. Right? And then there's a stroke up on the top and a stroke on the bottom. There's a lot of ways to write this letter. My handwriting's pretty bad with a mouse already in English, so I actually probably should avoid attempting to write Hebrew with a mouse. But that said, the idea here is that you can look at the letter A, but you can also look at the letter spelled out. Right? And now this has a different numerical value than A. A means 1, but Aleph has a different value. And so let's consider that. This is how you spell Aleph in Hebrew. A-L-E-P. Okay? F. All right. And so let's look at how to do that. We're going to do A for Aleph. L for Lamed. E, which comes from, and then D. I'm missing a letter, I apologize. We have Aleph, Lamed. My brain, for some reason, is failing me at a bad moment, I suppose. And then Lamed, right? And, is it Bet? And then Pay. Yeah, you know what? I need to verify that. I do not want to give you bad information, so I apologize. Give me just a moment. For some reason, it's failing me, and my notes are also failing me. See, this, I guess, is the danger of taking notes. I always rely upon my memory. I always have, and it has never failed me. And then when you take notes, you don't rely on your memory. I kind of told myself, oh, you don't need to commit any of this because you're going to be able to just review your notes. And I looked down, and I have no notes on this particular subject right here that I can, like, I either forgot to write them or whatever the case may be. So, yay, live. Yud. Oh my gosh, what is my problem? I apologize. I'm really sorry. I guess I've been ignoring the most important part of this process. So sorry. Yud. What is... I mean, just listen to the word. Aleph. Anyway. Sorry. Okay. One more time. A. L for Lamed. Yud. And Dalet. Right? Or F is Pei. It's in the middle, toward the bottom. 80. Aleph. 121. Beautiful. So let's look up 121. Let's see what we can see. And you'll see that the pattern here is a very real... it's a very real information. It's not just like a random... There we go. 121. And again, we were looking at the letter of the alphabet spelled out, right? As opposed to just the letter A, we're actually spelling out the word Aleph. Okay? And there's a couple of ideas here. Emanations, whirling motions, nocturnal visions. There's a couple of other things that are kind of irrelevant, but an end. What an interesting word for the first letter of the alphabet, right? An end. Imagine if you're looking at the world through a mirror, the beginning would appear like the end, wouldn't it? So you get the idea. Now, obviously, therefore, a couple of things too. I just want to be clear. Aleph means 121. It also is 11 squared. Okay, and let's just do it on the calculator because I want to make sure that people see. All right, so 121 is Aleph. A, L, I, F equals 121, and these are the Hebrew letters. This isn't some kind of like mixed up gematria. Okay, now let's do square root. All right, so just to be clear, let's go to decimal. I'm going to need to jump to scientific because we're doing square roots. Or square root is on simple, right? Where's my square root button? Okay, so we want to square 11. So where's my square button? Okay, so 11 squared is 121, right? And that's kind of a big deal because the word Aleph spelled out equals 11 squared. That's just beautiful, isn't it? I mean, powerful. And we're also talking about the end. The word Aleph means the end. I mean, there's I can't even, you know, like when you really let yourself have the information, when you actually integrate what it is that we're talking about here. Every different language system you use to interrogate the truth through the proper method of communicating with your heart and mind at the same time, you see these connections. And they become more profound and more obvious. And it's just really, really cool to share. You know, I just looked up at my camera, random moment here, and realized that I don't see my Abbey Road. you go. Okay. That's good. Yeah, have it upside down. Just to be clear, that is Abbey Road, but it's upside down. Okay. So, really quickly, I just want to take a count in the room. How many people here are over 30? Just real quick, show of hands. Who's over 30? I don't need ages, especially the women. But who's over 30? Because if you're over 30, you're about to cry when I show you what I'm about to show you. Look what the puppy did. Look what she did. It was, you know how good in condition this was? I want to cry. I just can't. There's no repairing that, right? I mean, there's nothing you can do. Okay. So you get the gist. You can look at a letter, you can look at a word, you can look at a letter and break out. Now, also, there's, just to be clear, because there's right? See? There's a couple people who understand my pain. There's this idea, this final idea, just to be clear about the holographic nature of up and down. Okay? Because that's really what we're talking about here. You have the letter A, which we can then spell out as Aleph. Then we can spell the letters going down. Right, and then we can spell Lamed. Right, and so on. And then these can be broken out, which would be broken out, which would be broken out, right? And so you can actually genuinely holographically break down the entire Bible that way to a single letter. You can also take a single letter and break it out entirely and read it. You can take a word and do that and read it as a story. 90% of the work you do doing that will return garbage. There'll be no knowledge. It'll be wasted. But some of them tell you some pretty fun stories. And so I'm just going to leave it there. That's tonight's your story and number. I'm just going to peer at my notes and make sure I missed nothing. I didn't. Okay. Actually, there's one I did miss. Okay, there's one thing. I'm so glad I checked my notes. This is for everybody that actually wants good practical advice with respect to the performing numerology. This is a tip that you're going to thank me for the rest of your life. Okay? And we have the Vedics to thank. This is not the Hebrews. Starting at the top. Yeah. 1. Okay? Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, there is a concept that I learned. I've heard these words years ago. So long I can't remember. 9 equals 0. I'm like, whatever that means. Remember what I just said. 9 equals 0. Okay? Now, I'm going to prove why. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? And then we just keep going and write the numbers in a wheel. 10, 11, 12, 13, right? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Who sees the pattern? Every number in every line equals the same number. So let me just refer this here. So all the ones reduce to 1. 1. 1 plus 0 equals 1. 9 plus 1 equals 10. which equals 1. That's right. 9. 18. 8 plus 1 equals 9. 7 plus 1 for 17 equals 8. So forth. Now, let me be clear on this because I was very messy in my writing here. Imagine a circle. That's not a bad mouse circle. Wow. Wow, that's beautiful. It's a great circle. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. Now, and again, we did 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 is 1 plus 3. 4. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 22, 23, 24. 2 plus 4. 6. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 30, right? 31, 32. 3 plus 2 is 5, right? So all these numbers and everything in those lines equals that number, okay? Everything in those lines is going to equal 6. Everything in the lines are going to equal 5, okay? That's a great shortcut if you have this wheel in front of you, but that's more important is that this gave me insight. Here's a very beautiful piece of insight. 9 equals 0. Ask the question. If we look at the wheel, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where does 0 go? Where's 0? Right? It's not on that wheel, but 0 somewhere. We know it's a concept. Where is 0? It's before 1. Right? I mean, it's not after 1, so it's before 1. So let's look at the wheel again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so that means that 0 is the one before 1 in the 9 position. So 9 equals 0, okay? Now, let's make that applied, okay? Let's just throw some random numbers out, right? 1, 4, 6, 8, 3, 2, right? Here's 1, 4, 6, 8, 3, 2. Find the 9s. 6 and 3. 8 and 1. And then we have left 4 and 2 is 6. Now let's do it the normal way. 1, 4, 6, 8, 3, 2. Now you want to theosophically reduce this line of numbers. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 6 is 11, plus 8 is 19, plus 3 is 22, plus 2 is 24. 2 plus 4 equals 6. Right? See how much quicker that was to just cancel the 9s because they equal 0? And so one more time, just to be clear, anyone just chat me 5 random numbers. Because consider that, like, you can just, like, friends, any 4 and 5 is 9, any 6 and 3 is 9, 7 and 2 is 9, 8 and 1 is 9. So you can remove a lot of numbers just by realizing 9 equals 0. And by going through that exercise of just throwing random numbers out, or even let's just do, for instance, your birthday. This is my birthday. Let's not put my real birthday. This isn't my real birthday. Okay? So you can very easily do some canceling right here by getting rid of that 9. And then just do 3, 6, 7, 8. So this birthday equals 8. If you get a 19, the answer is 1. What's 9 plus 1? 10, right? So 19, your note right away is going to equal 1 because 9 equals 0. 7 plus 2 equals 0. 8 plus 1 equals 0. 5 plus 4. There's so many different 9s, right? That it's a very, very quick and concise way to get to a heart. Okay, so 1, 0, 1, 3, 1, 9, 8, 9, 0, 1. Well, right away, we get rid of the 2 9s. We get rid of the 8 and the 1s, and that's 0. So that whole right part of the numbers disappears. Okay, then we have 19, which we know equals 1. 13 is a 4, plus 1 is 6. So let's check it out. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5, 6, 15, 23, 32, 33, 6. All right, does everyone see how that works? Cancel the 9s. Just they don't count because they're 0. All right, so that's the technique. That was just a little shortcut that, and you are now, this is only for the people that have been initiated into the inner order. If you've been initiated from yesterday, then this is for you. You're now obligated due to the rules of the inner order. Remember, you have to follow the rules in the inner order. Is to share that tip. But anyway, just another human. Just pick a random human, not random, pick whoever you want, but pick a single human at least, and share that tip with them. 9 equals 0. Give them the circle. The circle's the way to kind of wrap it up in their head so they get it. And then ask where 0 is, and 0's 1 before 1. All right, so just share that tip. That's what it's for, okay? So that was numerology. That is your story in numbers. All right, and so I hope that was insightful. That went a little longer than I expected, but there was some banter in there, which is good, because, again, it's all about humor, right? Okay, so let's see. What do we have here? Okay. All right, we have time. Good. I just need 2 seconds to kind of get my head straight, heat up my coffee, and then we will move on to where it gets serious. I started with humor, and now no more humor. I told everybody at the beginning of the stream that you will wake up tonight. Tonight's the night that you're all gonna, who's ever open and has the ears to hear, is gonna walk into this sanctum tonight. You're gonna wake up tomorrow morning a different person. I know it's lofty, but I've done it enough that I know I can do it with at least a percentage of you. Okay? You just have to be open to it. Open your mind and heart at the same time. That's the only way it's going to work. You have to use both at the same time. And when you do, whatever you decide you want to manifest physically will come. The question is which one's deciding? I'll see you guys in a little bit.